It's cool because it coincides with Garrison's death. It's the date of Garrison's death is her due date. And so
never take life advice from someone who let Kody Brown handle their finances. Janelle Brown has found her latest calling, and predictably, it involves charging people to hear her talk about it. The life coaching group community, as she so grandly titled it, hosted a free Masterclass this week, twice, no less. Nearly 400 viewers tuned in to witness what could only be described as a TED Talk meets a timeshare pitch. For 30 minutes, Janelle spun her well-rehearsed sermon about owning your second chapter and getting off the hamster wheel before unveiling the inevitable sales twist, an exclusive offer to join her coaching community for the low price of $97 a month, down from $400 because generosity apparently abounds. The package? A predictable bundle of fluff. 1 monthly group workshop, 1 workbook, a couple of live coaching calls within the group, meaning not private and often not even with Janelle herself, a private members-only podcast, and a quarterly guest speaker. In other words, it's a glorified Facebook group with a price tag and some motivational wallpaper. The irony of Janelle, one of reality TV's most famously passive financial bystanders, teaching anyone about empowerment is almost too rich to swallow. This is, after all, the same woman who tearfully confessed to having nothing after decades in a plural marriage where her husband and his favorite wife burned through family money like confetti. She saw the recklessness firsthand, participated in the system, and yet apparently took her accounting cues from the bottom of a wine bottle. And now, she's positioning herself as a guide to fiscal and emotional enlightenment. To make matters worse, she wasn't even born into the polygamist culture she later joined. She chose it. She embraced the illusion of independence it offered, while ignoring the glaring consequence of that choice: a half-present husband and a financial structure that left her dependent and depleted. But why let decades of poor judgment stand in the way of a branding opportunity? Life coaching, after all, is the modern grifter's playground. No degree, no license, no accountability, just a camera, a catchphrase, and an invoice. Psychologists are bound by ethical boards. Life coaches are bound by nothing except their clients' willingness to pay. It's an industry where a person can reinvent themselves overnight as an expert and start dispensing recycled self-help slogans for profit. And Janelle isn't alone in spotting the low barrier to entry. Entire waves of unqualified coaches now make a living selling common sense at a markup. One particularly fitting example: a self-declared gaming life coach with no education who counsels young people using dubious sources and violates clients' confidentiality as casually as breathing. It's not guidance, it's gossip for cash. In Janelle's case, it's also insultingly tone-deaf. Her resume of self-inflicted financial chaos reads more like a cautionary tale than a credential list. She allowed her husband and his new wife to drain her assets, remained in an emotionally exploitative system, launched failed businesses, and made public declarations about being logical and savvy while owning nothing in her name. At one point, her car was literally held together with duct tape. Now, this same woman, broke, disillusioned, and still wading through the rubble of her own decisions, wants to teach others how to take control of their lives. One might call that irony. Others might call it delusion. Ultimately, the masterclass was exactly what it sounded like: a long commercial dressed up as empowerment. And if people really are signing up, it's either proof that the audience was stacked with plants or that hope truly blinds reason. The tragic comedy of it all is that the so-called money woman of the Brown family is the only one scrambling for income now. Perhaps the family's lessons in financial mismanagement weren't entirely wasted. Janelle just learned to repackage them as curriculum. You can take the woman out of the grifting family, but you can't take the grift out of the woman. Everyone says they're watching for the family drama, but let's be real. We're just waiting for Kody Brown's empire to finally collapse. At this point, the real mystery isn't what's happening on Sister Wives. It's why anyone is still watching. The show has become a masterclass in creative stagnation, recycling the same storylines with the same faces, pretending to be shocked by the same outcomes. Mary's dating life? About as riveting as watching paint dry. Robin's lingering heartbreak? Please. No one is buying that performance anymore. The timeline itself is absurd. Episodes filmed eons ago air as if anyone still remembers or cares about those events. The cast exists in a time loop where no one evolves, and viewers are dragged through it out of sheer morbid curiosity. Yet, like rubberneckers at a slow-motion car crash, the audience stays. Why? Because everyone wants to witness the implosion. Let's be honest. Sister Wives has devolved into a collective countdown to Kody Brown's public downfall. Viewers aren't tuning in for love, redemption, or family unity. They're waiting for the empire to crumble. The show's final act, everyone hopes, will be Kody losing everything. The house, the control, the self-delusion. And when that happens, no one expects it to play out on TNC. His real fear of poverty moment will unfold off-camera, through tabloid headlines and pitying paparazzi shots. But until then, the series lumbers on. The episodes feel endless, the energy lifeless, and the point long forgotten. Even the once committed fans admit they've tuned out mentally, watching on autopilot for the few remaining personalities who don't induce eye rolls. Janelle's grounded pragmatism and Mary's eternal awkwardness offer faint traces of the show's former intrigue. Christine's post-divorce glow? Lovely for her, tedious for everyone else. And yet, Sister Wives persists, propped up by viewers who swear they're done but can't resist peeking through their fingers at the wreckage. TLC should probably send thank you notes to the online commentators keeping the conversation alive, because without them, this family's televised collapse would have ended seasons ago. In the end, the real sisterhood isn't between the wives. It's among the viewers, united in collective disbelief that they're still watching, and secretly hoping the next episode will finally be the last. Everyone said Christine was the victim, but what if she was just the best performer? There was a time when Christine Brown could do no wrong. She was the triumphant escapee from Kody Brown's emotional gulag, the Queen Christine of fan adoration, the supposed moral center of Sister Wives. Calls for a spin-off were deafening. Viewers clamored to watch Christine's new journey, certain it would be a radiant tale of independence and self-actualization. But alas, turns out liberation didn't come with a personality transplant. Freed from Kody's tyranny, Christine has revealed herself to be every bit as insufferable as the family she left behind. When she's not the focal point, the newfound heroine defaults to passive-aggressive theatrics, snide remarks, exaggerated eye rolls, smug air quotes, and enough petty jealousy to power another season of contrived conflict. It's no wonder Janelle appears to tolerate her in cautious doses. Most viewers can barely manage 5 minutes without wanting to fast forward. The larger problem, however, isn't Christine alone. It's the entire show. Sister Wives has devolved into scripted absurdity. Viewers are force-fed scenes of the cast painting eggplants with forced sexual innuendo, Kody pontificating about his opulent house as though anyone asked, and the umpteenth U-Haul adventure in which the trucks are mysteriously empty, suggesting the actual movers were dismissed before cameras rolled. The illusion of reality has long since collapsed. What remains is an echo chamber of self-importance masquerading as authenticity. Christine's saintly image always relied on selective editing and an audience desperate for a hero. For years, her breathy voice and claims of martyrdom distracted from her less charming traits. To her credit, she was indeed the nurturing mother who kept the chaos afloat, raising children with genuine warmth. But the same traits that made her the family caretaker, her craving for validation, her insistence on being adored, now manifest as attention-seeking antics in every frame. Her bitterness shines brightest when the spotlight shifts elsewhere. The preview for the next episode, featuring Christine sulking that all the kids chose Janelle, exposes the fragile ego behind the cheerful facade. She loved it when the children chose her. Now her smile tightens. So much for sisterhood everlasting. Meanwhile, the original trio, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, seem too emotionally stable these days to sustain a full series. A brief annual special, perhaps featuring a sponsored family vacation and a few "Where Are They Now" interviews might suffice. There's simply no story left to tell. Even the adult children have caught on. They're unwilling to perform for free while TLC counts the advertising revenue. Producers, desperate to inject life into the corpse, now dangle the ludicrous potential new wife for Cody storyline, a transparent attempt to revive a formula that expired years ago. Credit where it's due, Janelle emerges as the only genuinely evolved adult in the ensemble. Her appreciation for the other wives' roles in her children's lives feels sincere. Her friendship with Christine, a product of maturity rather than manipulation. Her rapport with Mary, too, carries a rare sense of grace, a quiet acknowledgement of shared mistakes and mutual respect, both of which have been conspicuously absent in Brown family history. Christine, on the other hand, continues to deliver lectures about why she refuses to move closer to her children, conveniently forgetting the years she spent guilting others for not relocating to Utah. The irony seems lost on her, though not on the audience. 4 hours between her and her daughters is hardly long distance, yet Christine frames it like an exile. The melodrama would be impressive if it weren't so exhausting. Her unfiltered enthusiasm, once mistaken for authenticity, now registers as immaturity. The relentless giddiness, the shrill declarations of, "I'm getting married!" repeated ad nauseum, suggest a woman still performing for applause. And her wedding itself? Let's just say it wasn't exactly the picture of grace she seems to imagine. Christine Brown's post-divorce glow-up was meant to symbolize empowerment. Instead, it's become a case study in how overexposure can dismantle an illusion. What began as a victory lap now feels like a rerun, louder, pettier, and far less charming than the first act. The era of Queen Christine is over. Long live the silence button. They didn't buy a dream home, they built a shrine to their own egos. There's something uniquely grotesque about watching Cody and Robin Brown turn self-indulgence into a spiritual act. Their latest acquisition, a sprawling $2.1 million blessing, complete with a $1.6 million mortgage, seems less like divine providence and more like the crowning jewel in a long-running grift. It's almost impressive how thoroughly they've managed to rebrand greed as gratitude. The justification, of course, is that this palatial home was purchased so the family can visit. A noble cause, if only Cody had shown the slightest interest in visiting his estranged children or grandchildren himself. But why do the legwork when one can simply build a shrine and demand the worshippers come to you? The claim collapses under its own absurdity. Most parents their age are downsizing, not upsizing into luxury debt. Their peers are selling homes, decluttering, and spending on experiences. Meanwhile, Cody and Robin are busy thanking God for blessing them with a McMansion conveniently located downwind from a mine. A cosmic joke if ever there was one. What's particularly distasteful isn't just the excess, but the hypocrisy. The couple's televised gratitude ritual, complete with performative prayers over marble countertops, felt like a parody of humility. Viewers are expected to believe that divine intervention, not years of siphoning family resources, delivered this home. One can only imagine how the original Brown children must see it. A gaudy monument built from the scraps of what used to be their shared legacy. While their mothers and siblings live comfortably but modestly, Cody and his shy partner, whose faux innocence rivals her husband's delusion, pose as the blessed elite of their fractured empire. Even the financials border on farce. A $1.6 million mortgage at their age, with property taxes likely cresting $30,000 a year, is hardly a victory march into stability. Most people in midlife celebrate paying off their homes, not shackling themselves to new debt. But perhaps, for this duo, debt is the point. A symbolic, look what we can still afford gesture, meant to thumb their noses at anyone who assumed their downfall was imminent. It's less a home purchase and more an act of competitive posturing, a spiritualized form of financial chest thumping. In the end, Cody and Robin's dream home isn't about comfort, family, or faith. It's about spectacle. It's about proving that, even as his plural marriage imploded and his reputation sank, Cody could still flex his delusional brand of patriarchal success. Robin secured her financial safety net, and Cody, ever the narcissist, got his illusion of control back. Together, they've built not a home, but a monument to self-importance masquerading as divine favor. God may have blessed them, as they so piously insist, but given the location, one suspects he did it with a wink, and a dusting of mine soot for good measure. Sister Wives wasn't meant to be a comedy, but the cast accidentally wrote one of the funniest scripts on television. Few reality shows have given the world such an unintentional treasure trove of quotable absurdity as Sister Wives. What began as a docuseries about plural marriage has evolved into a Shakespearean comedy of errors, complete with mispronunciations, misplaced martyrdom, and the occasional outburst of prophetic nonsense. The dialogue has taken on a life of its own, endlessly recycled by viewers who can't resist repeating the show's strangest lines in their daily routines. Among the fan favorites is Janelle's immortal, "I gotta go pick up Savannah." It's not merely a line, it's an escape hatch, a polite euphemism for, "I'm done with this circus." Its origin lies in one of those beautifully excruciating family meetings where Christine has left, Robin is derailing, and Janelle, in all her pragmatic glory, decides she's had enough. Later, she delivers a variation during a far more somber moment, her mother's funeral, when Robin, naturally, makes the event about herself and her personal grief over the COVID situation. Janelle's response? A masterclass in social exit strategy. Well, there's weather coming in, so I'll go inside. Then there's the fan favorite declaration of exasperation. Wasted! Delivered with such memorable pronunciation that it's become shorthand for every petty defeat in life. Others have embraced Christine's immortal big dill and big picture, malapropisms so iconic they've transcended humor to become linguistic artifacts of the show's unique chaos. Of course, no catalog of Sister Wives catchphrases would be complete without Robin's immortal question, "What does the nanny do?" A line that manages to encapsulate both her own lack of self-awareness and the collective outrage of an audience who has been asking the same question for years. The musical entry, "That's not good for your body," brings a special kind of unintentional comedy, a parenting moment so bizarre it lives rent-free in the minds of fans everywhere. One can only wonder what, exactly, Robin expected poor Solomon to do with that advice. Carry his phone in a Faraday cage, perhaps? And finally, the pièce de résistance, Christine's naively incredulous, "I didn't know men could be bastards." A line so breathtakingly earnest, it deserves to be engraved above the entrance of every patriarchal religious compound. These lines, repeated in living rooms and whispered to pets, have become part of Sister Wives folklore. They're not just quotes, they're coping mechanisms. Shorthand for shared disbelief that this show, after all these years, continues to outdo itself in unintentional comedy. Each phrase captures a tiny moment of the family's unraveling, echoing long after the cameras stop rolling. A reminder that sometimes the most memorable writing isn't scripted at all. Never mistake silence for shock. Sometimes it's just two narcissists realizing they've been caught without a script. When the producer asked how Robin and Cody felt about the rest of the family not being there to help them move, the momentary silence spoke volumes. Robin's eyes darted, her lashes fluttered, and the gears visibly ground to a halt. It wasn't confusion, it was restraint. What she wanted to say was, "It's better this way, and thank heaven they're gone." But that would have shattered the delicate illusion of the sweet victim persona she's polished for over a decade. So instead, she gave her signature demure laugh. a nervous giggle that has long served as her shield whenever the truth threatens to escape. The pair hadn't rehearsed an answer, and the lack of coordination showed. Cody, ever the improvisational narcissist, looked as though someone had unplugged his script mid-sentence. They likely expected the question to tee up another round of sympathy applause. How tragic that no one came to help them pack their mountain of self-pity. But instead, they froze. Entitlement met exposure. And of course, this is the same Cody who once proclaimed he could never be led by one of his wives. A noble declaration, until the footage cuts to him on FaceTime, nervously asking Robin if he was sitting too close to his first wife. The self-proclaimed alpha male taking emotional direction from his favorite co-star. Cody's reaction in that scene almost bordered on human. He seemed genuinely sad, caught between nostalgia and denial. Perhaps he misses the family's presence, not just as free labor, but as the scaffolding that once held his ego upright. Yet any chance of reconciliation is long gone. He let too much rot fester for too long, and now he's trapped in a house of mirrors built by his own avoidance. Robin, of course, is perfectly fine with that. Robin's grief over the family's absence has all the sincerity of a Hallmark card. The act of the bashful, overwhelmed woman is as practiced as ever, complete with wide eyes, soft voice, and the ever-present reminder of how shy she supposedly is. Beneath the surface, though, lurks the archetype of the stepmother who came to rewrite the story. Her children are the priority, his are expendable extras. The only reason she ever connected with McKelty was timing and temperament. A teenage girl in search of validation, finding it briefly in the newest wife's flattery. It was transactional affection, pure and simple. Cody and Robin rewarded loyalty until it ran out, then swiftly reclassified McKelty as unreliable once she remembered which family she came from. At this point, Robin doesn't even seem to regard the other wives or children as people, but rather as the help. Background characters meant to serve, not speak. Her shock when the producer turned the spotlight on her wasn't offense, it was disbelief. The unspoken thought flashed across her face. That's a stupid question, and you're not supposed to talk to us like we're equals. The entire exchange was a perfect distillation of the Robin and Cody dynamic. Two people who crave control, demand sympathy, and crumble the moment reality refuses to cooperate. They didn't become the villains, they were the villains from day one. The show just took years to catch up. Every good reality series needs a villain. But Sister Wives didn't have to manufacture one. Cody and Robin Brown wrote their own script, complete with secrecy, narcissism, and a slow-motion implosion disguised as a love story. For anyone paying attention, the so-called turn didn't happen in season 13 or during the Flagstaff move. It started the moment Robin waltzed onto the screen, declaring Cody her soulmate, and the rest of the family pretended it wasn't the insult it so clearly was. From the beginning, Cody's self-absorption was evident. This was the man who bought himself a two-seater sports car while his wives drove hand-me-downs and juggled a small army of children. The same man who paraded a new love interest, complete with debt, 3 kids, and an obvious sense of entitlement, into a family already stretched thin. His ego swelled the moment the cameras turned on, and he's been feeding it ever since. Robin's arrival didn't just expose Cody's selfishness, it emboldened it. Together, they mastered the art of delusion. She refused to live near the other wives, demanded an elaborate wedding and extended honeymoon, and turned every shared family event into a showcase for their private romance. The now infamous 11-day honeymoon, which left Christine postpartum with 5 children and a newborn, perfectly captured their dynamic. Indulgence for them, neglect for everyone else. Neither expressed remorse, not for abandoning the family, not for flaunting their relationship, not even for humiliating the wives left behind. The secrecy was there from the start. Robin and Cody hid their early kisses, kept details from the others, and operated as a team against the rest. The message was clear. This wasn't plural marriage. It was a hierarchy, with Robin crowned queen and the others demoted to emotional exiles. Her manipulative insistence on equal time became farcical when Cody willingly spent weekends away while his other wives were heavily pregnant. Every romantic gesture between them was another small betrayal to the family structure they claimed to protect.
By the time Christine was in labor with Truly, Cody was already too busy running to Robin's side. Cameras be damned, to maintain the illusion of fairness. His performance as family man crumbled further when his neglect of sick children, like Truly and later Isabel, revealed that his affection only extended to those who flattered his ego. The pandemic merely exposed what had been true all along. Cody had long stopped being a husband to anyone but Robin. Robin, meanwhile, cloaked her ambition in tears. Her refrain about needing Cody because her children were young ignored the obvious. The other wives' children had once been young too, but they never received the same indulgence. The supposed spiritual connection between her and Cody was less divine inspiration than calculated positioning. She wanted head wife status, and she got it, along with the spotlight, the house, and the unending victim narrative. So when viewers pinpoint their aha moment, the honeymoon, the wedding dress deceit, the premarital kisses, the Flagstaff move, they're really just identifying the mile markers of a decline that began the moment Robin entered the frame. Cody didn't become a narcissist in season 13. He finally stopped pretending not to be one. The tragedy of Sister Wives isn't that a family fell apart. It's that it was never built on anything real to begin with. What the audience watched was a slow dismantling of a fantasy, as two self-serving people used religion, loyalty, and television fame as props for their own delusion. Everyone else was simply collateral damage. The Browns went neutral. The truth didn't. Subscribe.